All right, we are on question number 43. What I'd like you guys to do is look at your answer choices A, B, C, and D. Does anybody know what form this is called? A, B, C, D. There's a certain form. It's not slope-intercept. It's not standard form. It's called point-slope form. So could you please write point-slope form? Okay. Point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. These are all in point slope form. All right. All we're looking for is a point and a slope. All right. Now, in order for this to work, now we're going to zoom in. You go and make sure you write that down. We're going to go and zoom in. We're going to find a slope first of all. All right. So we're going to find a slope. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Take a look at this. There we go. So if you would please, on your paper, put a point right here. You can clearly see there's a point right there. Then you have another point right here, another perfect point, ordered pair right there. And then just make a little triangle. It goes down a certain amount, over a certain amount, down a certain amount. So we can kind of see our slope. It keeps going. Down a certain amount and over a certain amount. So what's our slope equal to? How much does it go down? How many units? What would you say? 3. It goes down 3. So put -3. That's what we call the change in the y. All right. Now what about the change in the x? How much does it go over? It goes over 1. So our slope is -3 over 1. So our m value is -3. So we know we have a slope of -3. All right. So what does that mean for us? That means which answer choices could we totally eliminate and get rid of? C and D. If you guys can just understand what point slope form is, there's the slope. Does everybody see? There's our -3 slope, and there's our -3 slope. What is it? What do these slopes say? +3. This is -3. This clearly has a -3 slope. So now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to interpret the ordered pair. That says x minus a 4. This says x minus x1. So this is saying this has a 4. And if this is +7, that means you actually have a -7. Because if you plug in a -7, that turns it to a plus. This ordered pair is saying we're at a -2 and a -1. So we're going to plot 4, -7. 4, -7 right there. And we're also going to plot -2, -1 right there. There's -2, -1. So this right here, we're at a 4 and a -7. Right here, we're at a -2 and a -1. So what do you guys think the answer would be? A or B? Which one has the slope and the point? Answer choice A. Now, how do we do this in Desmos? All right, if you wanted to use Desmos to find your answer, all you have to do to get to Desmos, all right, if you had the equation y minus, was it y plus 7? Y plus 7 equals 3, open parentheses, x, oh, sorry, -3. -3, open parentheses, x minus 4, like that. Do you guys see how it doesn't graph it? Okay. But watch this. If you took this +7 and just moved it across, what would it become? So look what happens. If I just take that away, take a 7 away from this side, and take a 7 away from this side, does it graph it now? Yeah. And if you wanted to check, does it pass through 4, comma, let's see, where's the comma? Right here, comma, -7, does it pass through 4, comma, -7? It does. So here's what I want you guys to get good at. I want you guys right now to rewrite all these equations in a form that Desmos will allow you to graph them. Our first one we just did, it was y equals negative 3 x minus 4 minus 7. Okay? Answer choice B, I'll change colors. It will be y equals negative 3 x plus 2. But if I move the 1 and I move it to the other side, what does that become? Negative 1. Very good. Let's do answer choice C. If you wanted to check, answer choice C. Y equals 3 parentheses x plus 7. If that says negative 4 and I move it across this equal sign right here, becomes a positive 4. And last but not least, if I have y equals 3 parentheses x minus 1, and if I have a negative 2, it becomes a all of these will now, you can now type them into Desmos, but you cannot type them in to Desmos until you move whatever this number is and move it across the equal sign. It's super easy. Just make it the opposite of whatever it is. That's all you got to do. It's never going to change. If I die tomorrow, it'll still be the same. No, it will be the same. It's not going to change, all right? If a new algebra teacher comes in and says something different, they're lying, okay? All right, I'm going to zoom out now. Let's go on to the next problem. Hopefully that was a good enough explanation. All right, so right here it says, which expression is a factor of this? So the first thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you just to change it from r squared to x squared, okay? You wouldn't have to do that. We're going to do that eventually. So I want you to know that if you wanted to, you could change these to x's if you like that better, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and try to factor this guy. Now, what are the only factors of 9? A 9 times a 1 and a 3 times a 3. So I'm gonna check a 3r and an r. All right. And then right here we have a what? What's the only factors of 1? 1 times 1. So I'm going to put a 1 and a 1. Now when you're multiplying things together, we're trying to get this negative 4x in the middle. I realize I put r's, so I should put x's there. Sorry. All right. We're focusing on the outer products and the inner products. All right. I want you to put a -1 and a -1. All right. Now 3x times a -1 is a negative 3x. -1 times x is a negative x. If I add those together, I get negative 4x. So right now, my two factors, if I change them to r, my two factors would be 3r minus 1 and r minus 1. Okay? So, oh, looks like there's two factors. Hold on. It says which expression is a factor? That's a factor. That's a factor. Let me just do something real quick. Go ahead and do this with me. I don't think I did anything wrong, but you know, make a little box with me if you would. I'm going to put 3r minus 1, r minus 1. Oh, here's what happens. My bad. I forgot something. That's supposed to be a 3. Duh. That should be a 3x. That's where I messed up. Yeah, so these aren't going to be factors. My apologies. All right, so 3r times 3r is 9r squared. That's negative 3r. That's 9r. That's sorry, that's negative 3r, and that's a positive 1. All right, so this actually becomes 9r squared minus 6r plus a 1. All right, so right now these aren't factors of this expression. They would have been factors if they would have been a 3x squared minus 4x, not a 9x squared. So right now, what I'd like you to do is I would like you guys to type this in. All right, type this in to Desmos, except type it in with x squareds real quick. So right now, I'm going to type it into Desmos. 9x squared minus 4x plus 1. And I'm not even going to do y equals, just type it in exactly like that. Okay? So if you guys type that in, do you guys notice right here, if you look at that parabola, does it cross the x-axis anywhere? It does not, does it? Okay? So what I want you guys to understand is when it says which expression is a factor of this, if you type this in to Desmos and you do it in terms of x, what do you notice? It doesn't touch the x-axis. So what does that tell you? That tells you there's going to be no real factors. All right? Now, a factor is a line that will pass through a zero. Well, if it doesn't have any zeros, then it doesn't have any factors. So let me show you what would have a factor. Okay? So the answer, by the way, the answer is going to be there are no real factors for this problem. You can't factor this guy. There's nothing that's going to work. So what would be something that would work? Let me show you real quick. So if I said x squared minus 2x minus 8, what are the two zeros right there? Negative 2 and positive 4. What would be the factors? One of the factors would be x plus 2, and the other factor would be x minus 4. Linear factors always pass through the zeros of a parabola. Okay? So your answer choices that they'll give you, what would happen? That line would hit one of the zeros. If it doesn't hit a zero, then it's not a factor. Okay? And if your parabola, if I change that and put, say, plus 8. Do you guys see this parabola now? This parabola has no factors because it doesn't do what? Why does that parabola have factors and that parabola doesn't have factors? Because this one doesn't touch the x-axis, but that one does. What would be the two factors of that? 0 and 2. So x minus 2 and x. So you would say one of the factors would be x, the other factor would be x minus 2, because they would pass through the zeros of the parabola. Okay? So on this one, we're gonna be practicing factoring, but that's a way to check your answer. Okay? So the answer for the 44 is J. There are no real factors. Okay? All right, if you guys would please look at problem number 45. Has 2x minus 5y equals 10. It says which ordered pair is a solution set of 2x minus 5y is greater than or equal to 10. So if you would please, we're going to show you guys where this is going to be shading. If you guys see a negative in front of this, if you see a negative in front of this, eventually what's going to happen? What are you going to have to do to solve for this? Eventually you're going to have to divide by a negative, which means this sign is going to flip. So what I want you guys to understand, what I'd like you to do is understand this graph, everything's going to be shaded below. Everything's going to be shaded underneath. Now, if this would have not been a negative sign, would have been a plus sign, then you would shade everything above the line. So I'm going to quickly solve it so you can see what I'm saying. I put minus 2x, and then all I'm going to do is divide everything by a negative 5. Okay? And we get y is less than or equal to positive 2/5 x minus 2. That's your answer in slope-intercept form if you subtracted 2x from both sides and divided everything by negative 5. And why would the sign flip? Because you divided the inequality by negative. So right now, what I'd like you guys to do, help me out. Give me the ordered pairs. Okay? Give me the ordered pairs, and we're going to plot them. What was answer choice A? 0, 5. Okay, so 0, 5. What was answer choice B? 5, 0. Answer choice C? Negative 2, 5. Answer choice D? Negative 5, 2. Okay, so if we have 0, 5, can you guys clearly see that that's not the answer? Okay? 5, 0. Ooh, would 5, 0 work? Yeah, it looks like it would. How about negative 2, positive 5 up there? Way up there. Does that work? No. What about negative 5, positive 2 right there? Okay? Now let's say for example, so the answer is B. Okay? Let's say for example you had no idea how to solve this. Okay? You had no idea. What's something that everybody should know what to do? Plot points. So if you think about it, just by plotting the points, you have a 0, 5, you have a 5, 0, you have a negative 2, 5, and you have a negative 5, 2. Tell me, what do you see? Let's say you didn't know where to shade. You weren't sure if you're shaved above the line. You didn't know where to shade below the line. Tell me something that's interesting, like, one of these is different than all the other points. These three are where? Way up there. Way up where? Above the line. This is the only point that is what? Below the line. How many answers are you searching for? One. So you don't choose the answer that's in the cluster. You choose the answer that's all by itself, even if you didn't understand the concept. Sometimes it's like you're just using logic. All of these are together. All of this is the only one by itself. I got to choose which one is, not which one is not. So I don't know if that makes sense of using like just the answers to figure out which one would be the correct answer, even if you didn't understand the question. All right, got a lot of deer in the headlight looks. Hopefully that made some sense. Okay. All right, so here we go. What kind of function is this guy? We've done about 3 of them so far. Exponential function, guys. Exponential function. Okay. What does the a value represent? That's where we start. What's the b value represent? The growth or the decay factor. Now, if it's a growth factor, that number's bigger than 1. So if it's growth, the b value is greater than 1. If it's decay, the b value is less than 1 but greater than 0. We've written this down I think 3 or 4 times now. So understand, this is kind of your quick little lesson on exponential functions. So right now, what is our a value? If I had to rewrite our function, it gives us our a value, which is 245. Then they give us our b value, which is 1.12. So right now, what do we know about our b value? It's definitely a growth because b is greater than 1. Okay? What's our initial number? If I said what's the start or the initial, that word is initial. What are we starting with? 245. All right? So right now it says the initial number of bacteria is, that's not it. What would be the correct number we'd want to put right there? Cross that out. Put 245. All right? The initial number of bacteria, it says decreases, but we know it's the b is greater than 1, so we know it's not going to be a decrease. It's going to be an increase. So that's not it. The number of bacteria increases at a rate of 12%. That's the true. Now, how do we know it says 1.12? Well, what does 1.12 equal as a percentage? That's 112%. which means we had 100%, and what are we adding to the bacteria every single day? We're adding 12%, and that's why it's 112%. This is the increase. So it increases at what rate? At a 12% rate. That's why the answer is answer choice H. Now, how could you prove that J is wrong? All you'd have to do is, at the beginning of the day, if it says the number of bacteria at the start was 245, then that would be the correct answer. But at the end of the one day, what am I going to do? Put a 1 there? Well, how would I check that? Here's a really easy way to check it. So go to your calculator, just type in 245 parentheses 1.12 and raise it to the power of 1. And what is it at the end of the first day? It's all the way up at 274. So that's how you could check to see if that was the correct answer. So the answer was answer choice H. Okay? Number 47. The daily cost of hiring a plumber, Y. So put y equals cost of plumber. Just write it down. Y equals cost of plumber. And X hours to work. So put X hours. X equals hours of work. Okay? Can be modeled using a linear function. This is going to be a linear function. The plumber charges a fixed cost. Put fixed cost of 80. So can you guys write the word fixed? Put fixed equals 80 bucks plus an additional cost of $45 per hour. So put the rate of charge equals $45 slash hour. Which one of these represents the slope and which one of these represents the y-intercept? What would you guys say? Oh, when I'm talking about y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Which one of those is the y-intercept and which one is the slope? What do you guys think? I have a bunch of excited, enthusiastic students right now that are just involved in every part of the way. Nobody's wanting to take a risk. So, you know what? I'm just going to keep telling you what to do and maybe it'll make sense. This is the y-intercept. The fixed cost will always be the y-intercept. And this will always be the slope, which is the rate of change. So if you would please, make your function and put y equals 45x plus 80. Okay? 45x plus 80. It says the plumber works a maximum of how much per day? 8 hours a day. So put, if he works 0 hours, 0 hours, you plug in a 0. How much are you going to charge you for just looking at it? Wrong. He's going to charge you $80, people, for just showing up. If you hire somebody to come to your house and you want to have to take a look at the work, there's a fixed cost. That is part of the real world. They come to your house, they look at it, and they say, here's the problem. Here's $80 for me telling you what the problem is. Now would you like me to fix it? That's called a service fee. That's part of the real world. If you don't believe me, become an adult, own a house, call somebody to your house, and you'll realize that what I'm saying is true. All right? Now, if you worked 8 hours, what's the maximum amount of money if you worked 8 hours that would be charged to fix your plumbing problem? All you got to do, go to your little graphing calculator. If you didn't believe my first part, 45 times 0 plus 80 is still 80. But 45 times 8 plus an initial service fee or a flat fee fixed cost of 80 is 440. So what's your maximum cost? 440. 40. Here's what I want you guys to write down on your paper. 0 to 8 represents the domain. 80 to 440 represents the range. The range represents the cost. The domain represents the hours, like how long it takes you to fix your plumbing problem. Okay? So before I call a plumber, what do you think I do? I use YouTube, see if I can fix it myself. If I can't fix it, then I call them. Then I call them the big boys or women, depending on who's the plumber. All right. Now, so it says for 1 day of work. It says what is the what? The range. That's why the answer is answer choice B. Could you guys please put answer choice A represents the domain. Answer choice B represents the range. So I could give you the exact same problem, change one word, and it would change it from answer choice B to A. So you got to make sure when you're reading these problems, make sure you highlight, underline what the heck you're looking for. Make sure you know if it's the range or the domain. All right. And yes, YouTube is a wonderful thing for being able to fix stuff. All right. At times. All right, here we go. What I'd like you guys to do, we're just going to do this one in Desmos. All right. Write Desmos. And then put this, write Desmos. Okay, here we go. Gonna go to Desmos. Let's do it together. Get your Desmos up and running. Won't take long. All right. Gonna write down, was it f of x? All right, g of x. All right. G of x equals x squared. All right. And what's another one? H of x. Okay. H of x. Not hx, sorry. H of x equals negative x squared divided by 4. Like that. There you go. Take a look at it. What's happened? It went from opening up to opening down. Which one's wider? Yeah, h of x is wider. It's been scaled, all right, by a factor of a fourth. Let's take a look at the answer choices. A reflection over the x-axis. That's true. Okay, there's definitely a reflection over the x-axis. And it says a horizontal stretch. Okay, all right. So here we have it's definitely not a reflection over the y-axis, so that's not true. All right. It says a reflection over the x-axis and a vertical stretch. So one of these two. So right now you're like, well, what is a horizontal stretch and what is a vertical stretch? All right. So what we're going to do, all right. Oh, my apologies. It's in parentheses. Let me go back real quick. Let me put this guy in parentheses. Parentheses. This is going to change it. Watch what happens now. If I put that squared, look how much wider that is. My first one, what did I do? I did x squared divided by 4. Okay? And if I put a negative, I want you to see the difference between these two functions. So here's what I'd like you guys to write down. I want you to see the difference between a times f of x and f times b of x. What we have is we have it on the inside, not on the outside. If a is on the outside, if there's a number that's on the outside, we call that a vertical. Okay? That's a vertical stretch or a compression, also known as a shrink. All right? If it's on the inside, if you see a parentheses, you know you're dealing with something horizontal. So that's a horizontal stretch or a compression or a shrink. So right now, guys, because it says we have a parentheses right here, we know we're dealing with a horizontal part, not a vertical. So the answer is for this one, and we're going to be going, trust me, we haven't gotten to this section. We're getting ready to head to that section, okay? This is a reflection over the x-axis, and it's not a vertical, it's a horizontal. So the answer is F. It's a reflection over the x-axis, and it's a horizontal stretch, not a vertical. Now, which one would be vertical? Let me show you something real quick. Guys, this right here would be vertically shrunk. This is horizontally compressed. This is vertically shrunk. But we're going to be getting into that soon. So the answer is answer choice F for 48. All right, number 49. Just write this one down with me, and we'll take care of it. It won't take long at all. There we go. Now, one thing we're going to do, okay, is we're going to eliminate a couple of answer choices just by looking at our numbers, our coefficients. All right? So right now, if we just look at these, we have a 10, we have a 4, we have a 2. This means 10 times 4 divided by 2. All right? What's 10 times 4? 40. What's 40 divided by 2? 20. So we know our answer is either going to be answer choice B or answer choice D from the very, very, very get-go. If you just look at the numbers, okay? So right now, if you would please, let's just focus on the variables. This right here, this is called the quotient property. In the quotient property, you're allowed to subtract them. Are there any other Q's right here? No, but 7 minus 3 is 4. So if you're wondering what I did right here, all I did was take w to the power of 7 minus a 3, and I got a 4 times. Here we have what's called the power property. The power property allows you to multiply these together. So this becomes q to the power of 12. Q to the power of 12 over w to the negative 5. Now I'm just going to put 20 out in front because I know all these become a 20. Now, the last thing I want you to understand is if you want to make that negative exponent positive, just shift it up above the division sign. So when you do that, here's what you have left. You have 20 q to the power of 5, w to the power of 4, times q to the power of 12, w to the power of 5. Now we use what's called the product property. And the product property states that if you have the same variable, all you have to do is take the exponents and just simply add them together. So 5 plus 12 is 17. 4 plus 5 is 9. And that's our final answer. Answer choice B. So there are 3 properties. If you're wondering what those 3 properties are, all you have to do is literally go all the way back up, and here are your properties: the product property, the quotient property, and the power property. All right. So what was the very first thing that I was able to do just to get to that? Hopefully you saw me do. I did 10 times 4 divided by 2, and that gave me a 20. So I knew it had to be B or D. Okay, that was the first thing, so you could eliminate. The second thing I did was I subtracted 7 minus 3, got 4. The third thing that I did was multiply 6 times 2, and I got 12. Then I took this guy and moved him up above to make it a positive. Then I just added the exponents together, and that's all I did. Number 50, it says which best, well, this one shouldn't take long at all. Everybody, this is like, here's another gimme. What best represents the what? Vertex. Everybody should have gotten that right. What's the vertex right there? 1, -2. Answer choice J. Okay. What does this represent? Anybody remember that 2.4? What do you think that represents? That represents a 0. What does this also represent? The other 0. And what does this represent? The y-intercept. That's 1, 0. Remember, what are the key features of a quadratic? The vertex, the zeros, the y-intercept, and the axis of symmetry. Okay? The axis of symmetry would be right here at x equals 1. That's the axis of symmetry. So that was a pretty quick problem. All right, guys, it says, what's the slope? Okay? I'm going to do it by hand, and then I'm going to do it in Desmos. There we go. We'll do it by hand. We'll do it by Desmos. There's two ways to do this. There's x1, y1, x2, y2. The traditional way is to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We'll do it the traditional way. What's my y2 value? 17 minus a negative. What's my x1 value? Negative 11 over negative 9 minus a 5. So here's your traditional way. 17 minus a negative 11 gets me a positive 28. Negative 9 minus 5 is negative 14. And that becomes negative 2. And that's my answer. So that's using the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What do students forget to do? They forget to do a negative minus a negative, which changes it to a positive. They'll just do 17 minus 11, and that's where they'll screw up. Okay? So right here, what do? I like to do my change in y over my change in x this way. If I go from negative 11 to a 17, I know I've gone 28 units up. If I go from a 5 to a negative 9, I know I've gone 14 units down, and I still get the same answer, the change in the y over the change in the x. But you guys get to do the phrase that pays. And you don't have to think or do anything. As long as you remember what? y1 tilde mx1 plus b. So here's how you would do it in Desmos. So this is why you practice. The more you practice, the better you get. Here we go. Clear this out, clear this out, clear this out. Hit the plus sign. Make a table. All right, go back to my problem. It says 5, negative 11. So I type in a 5. And I type in a negative 11. Then I go back here and say negative 9 and 17. Negative 9, 17. Boom. Then I just type in the phrase that pays, which is y1 tilde m x 1 plus b. What does it say my slope is? Right there. Negative 2. There's your answer right there. What does this number represent? That represents the y-intercept. What does that represent? The slope. There you go. Almost done. All right, guys. Right now, you guys see this right here? This is one of these is in standard form. One of them is not in standard form. Do you guys see this? X equals 2y minus 4 right there. You got to move. You got to take this guy and move him across if you want to make it into standard form. All right. So right now I have 7x plus 5y equals negative 66. Now I'm going to rearrange this. I'm going to put x minus 2y equals negative 4. Write that down, please. Just write it down exactly as that appears. So write that down. Then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to go to my apps. I'm going to go to number 9. Yours is number 8. I'm going to go to number 2. There's my 2 equations, 2 unknowns. I'm going to hit next. And then you guys are going to help me out because you guys have written it down. 7x plus 5y equals negative 66. 7, 5, negative 66. And then right here it's x, so 1x, negative 2y. And what was it equal to? Is it -4? Hopefully I put -4. Good. All right, -4. Enter. Hit solve. What's your x value? -8. What's your y value? -2. So my x value was -8. My y value was -2. It says, what's the x value? -8. All right. So tomorrow I'm going to show you how to do this by hand, and we'll finish it up. All right. We got only 2 more questions to go. Have a good day.